Imagine unrolling a piece of parchment that instantly breaks the rules of history. Not because it's old or beautiful or rare, but because it's impossible. A map that simply should not exist in the world of 1513. A map that shows coastlines with precision nobody of that era could achieve, even if they spent a lifetime at sea. A map that suggests someone, long before modern civilization, charted the earth with methods we still don't fully understand. This is the unsettling mystery of the Piri Reis map, one of the most debated artifacts ever discovered. The story begins in 1929, when a group of scholars was cataloguing artifacts in the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul. They opened a dusty cabinet and found a rolled piece of gazelle skin. When they unrolled it, the room fell silent. It wasn't just old, it was shockingly advanced. The map depicted Europe, Africa, South America, but not in the crude, approximate style typical of early explorers. No, the coastlines were sharp, proportional, unmistakable. To the researchers, it was like finding a modern satellite image drawn centuries before satellites existed. What immediately raised eyebrows was South America. At the time the map was created, much of that continent was still unknown to Europeans. Expeditions were limited, coastlines were barely charted, and measurements were inconsistent. Yet here it appeared, clean, balanced, extending far down the coast as if the cartographer had the benefit of aerial surveying. Historians started pulling referrals, comparing shapes, analyzing curves. And the more they inspected it, the more the unease grew. Someone, at some point, had access to knowledge that was way out of its supposed era. But then came the detail that sparked the real controversy: Antarctica. The map seems to show a landmass at the bottom, one that lines up suspiciously well with the northern coastline of Antarctica. But here's the problem. Antarctica was officially discovered in 1820, 300 years after this map was drawn. And its true coastline, the one beneath the ice, wasn't mapped until the 20th century, using seismic and radar measurements. Yet the outline on the Piri Reis map matches not the ice-covered shape we see today, but the underlying land. That shouldn't be possible. And yet, there it is. When cartographers analyzed the map's projection style, they realized it used techniques that wouldn't appear in Europe until the 18th century, long after Piri Reis was dead. Either he was a savant centuries ahead of his time, or he was copying something ancient, something far older than anybody realized. And when researchers looked into his own notes, the plot thickened even more. Piri Reis wrote that he compiled the map from approximately 20 older charts, including ones from civilizations he describes ancient, l'ont vanished, and unknown to his contemporaries. That single line shook historians because it implied that advanced maps existed long before the classical civilizations we study today. But who created them? How did they gather data with such precision? And how did this knowledge survive long enough to reach the Ottoman Empire? Some theories argue for ancient mariners capable of global navigation, possibly Phoenician or Egyptian. Others suggest forgotten seafaring cultures predating recorded history. The more bold interpretations hint at entire chapters of humanity's past being lost, civilizations wiped out by catastrophe, leaving behind fragments like this map. And then there's the theory that the map reflects a memory of Earth before the last ice age, when coastlines were different and sea levels lower. If that's true, the implications are massive. Whoever charted those coasts lived thousands of years before agriculture even started. But let's be skeptical for a moment, because skepticism is necessary here. Critics argue that the Antarctica interpretation is mistaken, that maybe the map simply extended South America too far. They point out distortions, projection errors, and possible misreadings, and some of those critiques are fair. But even when you remove the Antarctica controversy entirely, the map still presents a huge problem. It's too sophisticated for its time. The accuracy of South America, the alignment of longitudes, which shouldn't have been possible until centuries later, the consistent scale across multiple regions. These features remain unexplained, even under the most conservative interpretations. And then there's the historical puzzle. How would ancient civilizations have measured distances so precisely? Latitude is used, but longitude requires precise timekeeping, something humanity didn't master until the 1700s. Yet here we have a 1513 map that seems to reflect a source that had solved the longitude problem. That alone should raise red flags in our understanding of history. Some researchers suggest the source maps may have come from the Library of Alexandria, which preserved knowledge from many ancient cultures before it burned. Others think they originated even earlier, perhaps from a civilization wiped out by rising seas at the end of the Ice Age. It sounds dramatic, but so does the map itself. When you hold an artifact that fundamentally contradicts the timeline, the only honest reaction is discomfort. And maybe that's the real reason this map is so magnetic. It forces us to confront the possibility that our version of history is incomplete, not wrong, just missing pieces. We assume progress moves in a straight line from primitive to advanced. Butwati fita, rising, falling, surging, collapsing, with knowledge gained and lost many times over. If even one ancient civilization achieved high-level navigation and later vanished, our entire timeline shifts. Yet, before we jump into fantasy, we need a sober reminder. Extraordinary claims demand extraordinary evidence. The Piri Reis map is tantalizing, but it's a single artifact. One map, one clue. It doesn't prove a super civilization existed. It doesn't prove global seafaring before history. It doesn't prove anything on its own. But what it does do, undeniably, is raise questions we can't answer cleanly. And questions like that are rare. So what's the takeaway? Maybe the truth sits somewhere in the uncomfortable middle, not aliens, not Atlantean super navigators, but something simpler and more challenging. Maybe humanity had pockets of advanced knowledge that rose and fell over millennia, leaving behind fragments we stumble upon by accident. Maps, mechanisms, stone structures, astronomical alignments. Clues that suggest our ancestors were not as simple, isolated, or primitive as we assume. The Piri Reis map doesn't rewrite history on its own, but it pressures it. It pushes us to reconsider the arrogance with which we think we know the past. It tells us that the world is bigger than our textbooks, older than our timelines, and far stranger than we're comfortable admitting. And until we find the lost sources Piri Reis claimed to use, the truth remains suspended, somewhere between history and possibility, between what we think we know and what we might discover next.